couple of weeks ago, I released a video review of DxO PureRAW 6, an app that can take a RAW file and turn it into a lovely, optically corrected and denoised DNG, all cleaned up and ready for post-processing. There were heaps of comments on that video, but one of them in particular caught my attention because it exposed a knowledge gap I keep seeing repeated by content creators and photographers alike. The commenter in question insisted that tools like DxO's aren't improving the original photo at all. In his view, the AI simply throws in the bin, his words, the real image data and replaces it with computer-generated guesses about what the scene should look like. And when it comes to DxO software in particular, this is, of course, absolute bollocks. But this confusion isn't limited to one random dude in a YouTube's comment section. It's everywhere. Photographers hear the letters A and I, and a good chunk of them assume their photo is being thrown out and replaced with fantasy pixels dreamt up by a hallucinating algorithm. And honestly, the reality is far less dramatic. Yes, legends, we're going to be talking about generative AI and machine learning today, because there's a lot of misinformation out there which incorrectly treats the two concepts as interchangeable, which they most definitely are not. And it matters because machine learning tools, like the ones in DxO's apps, aren't doing invasive surgery on your photograph. They're just getting better at spotting the bits that shouldn't be there and cleaning them up. But before we get stuck in, I should confess I'm 100% part of the problem too, because like every other content creator on the planet, I slap the term AI on anything that's more sophisticated than a drop-down menu. And for that, I am sorry, and I promise to try harder or be part of the solution from now on. Acceptance is the first part of healing. I should also point out that DxO is far from the only developer adding machine learning tools to their apps. Topaz, Adobe, Capture One, Apple, Pixelmator, and Luminar Neo all have ML tools too. Some of them have generative AI tools as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. Machine learning and its use in photo editing has a much longer history than generative AI, and in fact, most of us have had access to ML tools for nearly 2 decades now. The first machine learning tools weren't nearly as transformative as what we're seeing now. They were mostly assistive: subject selection, face recognition, horizon detection, and automatic categorization. Those were the early use cases. Google were the first to add it to a publicly available app when they added face recognition to Picasa way back in 2008, but Apple weren't very far behind with face recognition incorporated into iPhoto in 2009. As cool as face recognition was back in the day, the first, well, isn't that bloody clever, tool that leveraged machine learning was the search function added to Google Photos in 2015. For the first time, users could use semantic search terms such as dog, beach, or sunset, and the large-scale machine learning classification that Google developed would surface photos without any need for user-added captions, tags, or keywords. But it was Adobe who pushed machine learning in a more transformative direction when they introduced the Adobe Sensei framework in 2016. Early Sensei-powered features, including face-aware liquify, which uses machine learning to detect facial landmarks, nose, ears, etc., and later on tools like Select Subject, which arrived in Photoshop in 2018. Photoshop already had content-aware tools before Sensei existed, but those earlier versions relied on clever algorithms, a thing called patch match, rather than machine learning. And of course, all of those tools are still in the apps we use every day and doing a great job in speeding up post-processing workflows. These days, you can find tools such as subject selection, even the most humble photo editor, partly because the technology is so mature now that there are plentiful open source libraries available to developers. But all of those tools I just mentioned are machine learning. They are not generative AI, and that distinction is the whole point of this video. In order to explain why machine learning shouldn't be lumped in with generative AI, we need to start by looking at the difference between them. And broadly speaking, that difference can be summed up like this. Machine learning analyzes the data that already exists in your image and uses statistical models to identify and correct problems, while generative AI synthesizes entirely new image data that was never captured by the camera. It's that last bit that is absolutely crucial. Machine learning tools do not invent image data. So let's break down exactly what machine learning is so we can better understand how it is differentiated from generative AI. And when it comes to machine learning, the clue is in the name. To create these tools, developers feed the system with lots of examples so it learns a set of rules to guide its actions. The machine learns. One type of rule is called classification, in which you show it a bunch of pixels in a photograph and you say, this is an eye, and so is this, and no, that's a penis, but I can see how you'd mix them up. And after tens of thousands of examples, the system broadly understands what an eye looks like and tangentially penises too. Or you might also show it a bunch of pixels and say, this is an example of high ISO noise. And then you show it tens of thousands of other examples of high ISO noise, and it broadly understands what the difference between noise and detail is. But identifying the problem is only half the story. The real magic happens when the model learns what to do about it. That brings us along to another type of rule used in machine learning, a transformation. In this case, instead of simply labeling a specific bit of data as something, eye, noise, penis, etc., it can turn one into the other, pixel by pixel. For example, once the model has recognized what constitutes high ISO noise, you can train it with photographs that do not have high ISO noise. So now it knows what high ISO noise looks like, and it also knows what correct pixel looks like, and it can remove the noise. This type of transformation is what is used for denoising, upscaling, and less commonly de-blurring. The original Topaz Labs Sharpen AI used this type of de-blurring model in order to correct poorly focused images. And it was so good at it that many of us are still using that original Sharpen AI app 3 years after Topaz discontinued it, because they stupidly sidelined their earlier excellent work in favor of awful generative imaging solutions. But I digress. The point is, whether we're talking about denoising, upscaling, or de-blurring, this kind of machine learning typically falls under 3 main processing objectives: classification, regression, and signal reconstruction. The model learns statistical patterns in the data and then applies them to the input you give it. But what the model is not doing is inventing anything. It's operating on the data already present in the image and simply transforming the existing signal into a corrected version. So that's machine learning. Now let's look at what generative AI actually does, because this is where it gets a little bit weird. The models used by Adobe for generative fill or Google with Nano Banana are taught how images are statistically structured, and then how to sample from that distribution to create new data. So instead of the relatively simple machine learning where we map an input, i.e. noise, to a label, i.e. defect, generative models learn. They create brand new data rather than just changing one type of data into another. There are heaps of different architectures lying behind these generative models, such as diffusion models, generative adversarial networks, and larger transformer models, but they all magic data up by learning patterns from massive training data sets and use them to create entirely new content that never existed before. When you use something like the hilariously named Wonder model in Topaz Photo, the app encodes the image into a compressed mathematical description of your shot runs it through a generative model, and then reconstructs the output. So, if you're wondering why the faces of the people in your original photograph change completely when using a model like this, now you know why. It stopped being your photo when you press that blue save button. In the last year or so, there has been a pushback against AI, and you'll hear the phrase AI slop literally everywhere. It's become the go-to insult for any image that looks even slightly processed, in the same way that photoshopped became shorthand for any kind of image manipulation, whether Photoshop was involved or not. And while many photographs really didn't deserve to be slagged off with the word photoshopped, most of the time you see the phrase AI slop in the comments section, it usually earns it. The situation gets more confused, however, when we talk about using generative AI in post-processing. Because from the outside, it looks like we're just fixing an image, whereas in reality, in many cases, we're entirely replacing it. When you use generative fill in Photoshop or Lightroom, the pixels inside the selected area are not fine-tuned originals, they are total replacements. Thus, knowing that your entire photograph can get replaced by a hallucinated facsimile of the original change your attitude to generative AI in post-processing? I'm certainly not judging you if you do use these models. It's your photograph, do what the fuck you want with it, but it's worth understanding just how transformative some of these tools are. There is no doubt at all that tools such as Deep Prime denoising model inside DxO PhotoLab or AI denoise in Lightroom have revolutionized post-processing because they have solved the high ISO noise problem. It is also true that tools such as Generative Expand in Adobe Photoshop have been a game changer for anyone that works with images professionally, because you can now iterate a version of an image that precisely fits with your requirements. But if you believe that there is a certain purity to the raw image that came off your SD card, and that you should work with the original raw data as much as possible, then you absolutely need to know the difference between machine learning and generative AI tools. I'm a bit of a purist and I prefer not to use any generative tools for my landscape photographs. But I'm more than happy to use machine learning denoising models like Deep Prime, because it's simply a more advanced version of the old luminance-based sliders we had to make do with in the past. So if someone tells you that a machine learning denoiser is replacing your photo with AI-generated guesswork, you now know that's not how it works. Deep Prime isn't generating anything. It's looking at your raw data, identifying the noise, and removing it. Your photograph is still your photograph. The confusion is understandable because the industry and the media have done a terrible job of explaining the difference. But now you know, and so do they. And I'll do this for this look at generative AI and machine learning in post-processing. Are you addicted to the generative remove tool in Lightroom, or do you stick to the old-fashioned clone stamp instead? Do let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more of it, then consider joining my Patreon or Substack communities. There is a growing library of members-only content for photographers. Links in the description. Please like and comment on this video to nudge the algorithm in my direction, and consider subscribing for more photo, drone, and video content from me. Till the next time, guys. Ta-ta.